China-India Youth Talks 2019, jointly organized by China Plus and the Hindi service of China Media Group. I'm He Yang. I'm the host of Roundtable, the premier English talk show on China Plus.
Hello everyone, this is Akhil Parashar from Hindi service of China Media Group.
Yes, hello everybody. It's great to have you here, and we have an amazing crowd here, and also we know that we have many that are watching us today's event on the video live stream. So you can catch us on various platforms, on the social media platforms and applications of China Plus, Easy FM, and CGTN.
No matter where you are, in China, in India, or any part of the world, leave a comment during live broadcast. Please feel free to post a question. If your question or comment is selected, we will present you a souvenir.
Oh, yes, we will. We'll make sure that gift makes its way to you, no matter where you are. Yes, China and India are the two most populous developing countries in the world, and we are close neighbors. But we don't seem to know that much about each other. But that's on the change. Even Chinese President Xi Jinping has mentioned China and India should respect each other and learn from each other. And today's event's theme is China and India. What can we learn from each other? Which echoes that notion. We've handpicked 8 youth representatives from China and India to share their stories and insight, and as well as we have special guests among us that are ready to share their wisdom and views.
Yes. Chinese Ambassador to India, His Excellency Mr. Sun Weitong, has sent greetings through videos. Let's take a look on screen.
Dear young friends, 你们好 and Namaste. I'm happy to learn that some outstanding young people from China and India come together today for China-India Youth Talks. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my sincere congratulations to all of you. China and India are neighbors, friends, and partners. Both of us are Oriental ancient civilizations, largest developing countries, and emerging economies. We are facing the common task of growing the economy and improving people's livelihoods. I hope today's discussion will help find out how we can learn from each other to realize our common development, common dreams. In recent years, China-India relations have maintained a positive momentum. Next year will mark the 70th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between China and India. We are willing to join hands with India to implement the consensus reached by our leaders and write a new chapter in China-India relations. The sound bilateral relations have provided many opportunities for youth exchanges. We have set up a lot of interaction platforms for youth. Every year, we organize two-way exchanges of 200-member youth delegation. Both governments have provided scholarship and encouraged academic and cultural cooperation. Over 20,000 India youth are studying in China, and nearly 2,000 Chinese youth are studying in India. China has the largest population in the world, while India is a country with the largest youth population. Young people are most active and dynamic, with the greatest imagination and creativity. I believe today's dialogue between the most vigorous groups of our two peoples will bring out the best ideas and inspiration to enhance mutual understanding and further promote our friendship between the two great nations. With these words, I wish today's event a big success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Sun Weidong.
Today we have special guests have shared their stories. Please welcome them on the stage.
Let's welcome the 8 youth representatives from China and India up on the stage. As we will meet them one by one and hear their stories as they share what they've seen, been through, experienced in China and India. Yes, let's start with Miss Siraj.
Oh.
Come on and join us.
Hi.
Oh, you look absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you. So do you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And you do too.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. Well, tell us a little bit about your story.
Okay, well, ni hao and namaste. Welcome everyone to this show today, and it's my privilege to be here with all of you. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. I came here around 8 years ago, and it wasn't my choice. I am a product of typical Indian parents who want their children to be either a medical student or an engineer, and I was kind of forced to be a medical student. So anyways, I came, but I don't regret it because I actually found my passion here. I found what I want to do in life, and is actually in media. And since then, I have been going into media, and I have been setting up these meetups with my friends, which started very small because, you know, we were alone in China, we didn't know anyone, and we wanted to meet people. We wanted to be able to connect, find fellow foreigners, find fellow Chinese people who can relate to us. And then from there, it became a platform where we now invite people who are teachers, or they are businessmen, or they are CEOs. They're from any walks of life, and we give them an opportunity and a platform to tell their story in China, what they are doing, and invite other people to help others become better in China.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
yeah.
that's great to have you here, and we are looking forward to hearing what you have to say about
Thank you.
finding the path, finding the journey, whilst having India and China in the background, you standing here. This means a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, thank you, Sira,
everyone.
thank you. Let's welcome our next guest, Thang Tianshu.
Yes.
Lovely
thank you.
sari, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yang Tianshu, welcome.
Yang Tianshu. Yeah, thank you, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. I will give you a brief introduction about myself first. My name is Yang Tianshu. I'm a correspondent from China Radio International. I was sent to our bureau in South Asia since 2016. So I've been doing interviews in Sri Lanka, Maldives, Nepal, and India. And I was based in India, so I spent most of my time here. I've been to many beautiful places in India, and I have many Indian friends who taught me a lot. So I'm really happy to be here to share my stories.
That is
Okay,
fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, Tianshu, you
Yes.
tell what has made you fall in love with India?
Well, that's an interesting question because at the beginning, I didn't plan to go to India, but I was sent there. And the moment I get to India, I fall in love with it. Just like I'm wearing sari today, because
Yes.
I love the culture, and I really love the way they preserve their traditions and culture. So I love India.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
what a beautiful attire that you're in, and I just can't think of anything better that you'd be wearing today. And you
thank
look
you.
so pretty.
Thank you, you too.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
Yes,
guys.
and we'll hear your stories and details a little bit later. Yes, and now let's welcome Aditya. Hello, come on here. This is the walking dictionary of Chinese idioms. Hello.
Hello everyone. Hello my friends from China and from India. My name is Aditya, and for my Chinese friends, my Chinese name is Ai De, Ai Ching De Ai, Tao De De De.
Is there a reason why you chose those two words?
As we know, the character I means love and De means morality. So I chose these two characters to represent my name, and it also sounds similar to my Hindi name, that is Aditya.
All right, or maybe you have some pursuits in life which is of, high pursuits, and I would echo that.
Thank you so much.
Yes, it's great to have you here.
Thank
and
you.
how come Yes, well, we did a little bit of talking, and
Yeah.
this man's Chinese really just surprised me. Was it really difficult to pick
Oh,
up
it
another
was-
language?
It was very difficult. I would like to share with you guys, like, I started studying Chinese like 9 years back in one of the premier institutes in India, that is Jawaharlal Nehru University. And it has already been 9 years. It was quite difficult in the beginning. But as the Chinese saying goes, that 只要功夫深，铁杵磨成针.
Oh,
So
wow.
Awesome.
thank you so much. So through striving hard and by the help of my Chinese and Indian teachers, I have come to a different level. But I would still like to learn more. And I would say another saying in Chinese, that is 活到老学到老. So I
Yes.
try to learn more and more from.
Yeah, so you're hardworking, and also you're ready to devote your lifetime to studying.
Definitely.
Wow.
Thank
well,
you.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Steffi.
you.
Yes,
Thank you,
and
Aditya. Thank you
can't
so
wait
much.
to
Thank
hear your
you.
story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would like to invite next guest, Mao Keji.
Mao Keji, hello.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mao Keji. I'm a policy analyst from International Cooperation Center at National Development and Reform Commission. It's a long name, I know. I'm so interested in India, and in the past 10 years, I've written more than 100 column articles about India and South Asian affairs. And I'm also very interested in Indian food, and I cook a lot of Indian food by
Wow.
myself. Yeah, so I would like to be the best cook among the South Asia scholars, and the best South Asia scholars among the cooks.
And it sounds like you will achieve that goal very
I
easily.
believe so.
Okay, what can you make or what can you cook in Indian food?
Yeah, among all types of Indian food, my favorite one is tandoori chicken. That's really good, and I
Okay.
can make it really good.
That is fantastic, and
Yep.
we will hear your stories and insights in today's event as we continue the discussion. That is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Mao Keji.
Yeah.
And now let's welcome Kamal. Hello.
Hello, 大家好, namaste.
Namaste. And yes, you are a man that talks a lot about education and the
Right.
importance of that and how that brought you to China.
Oh, yeah, definitely. As she said, that my name is Kamal, and I'm from New Delhi, and now I'm living in Suzhou, and I'm the executive officer at the Asia Pacific Model United Nations, and we are directly connected to the high school students here and university students here. So, as I told before, like, I am a big fan of traveling, and I have been to many, many countries, like around 30 countries. And when you ask me what's your favorite place, then definitely it would be China. I really love China.
Wow, great.
I really like infrastructure, convenience, how people are so friendly to each other. That's really amazing, and thank you for making our life comfortable.
Definitely, we will ask more thing about China. Yes.
Yes. Thank you very
Thank you
much,
so much.
Kamal.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I would like to ask Li Jian. Please welcome.
Li Jian, welcome.
Hello everyone, my name is Li Jian, and my Indian friends call me Amit. So Amit is a very common name in India, but it's also very much well known in China as Amitofo.
Oh,
Yes.
I didn't make that translation before. Yeah, Amit.
So I've been living and working in India for almost 14 years, and I'm right now running a company named Dragon. So Dragon and Elephant.
Oh, and
So that tells what our company does.
so India and China not only means a lot in your life, since you're living in India you've been living there for 14 years,
14 years.
but in your business as well.
yes.
Yes.
Li Jian, I want to ask, who has very good bargaining skills, Indians or Chinese?
I think if we were tourists, then probably the same. But if you talk about business, I think Indians are much better at bargaining.
Oh, so Indians would get the better deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Li Jian.
Thank you. And now let's welcome Prasoon to tell us a little bit about yourself. Prasoon, you're a man of many hats.
Namaskar and ni hao. Myself is Prasoon Sharma. So currently I hold around 3 positions. One, I'm a Pentland Scholar in New York University and UCL. where I do Indian-China policy work. And second, I'm a director of China Center in an Indian think tank, and also a director in Xavier University in India. So I have around 14 years of experience working with Indian-China bilateral relationship, and my contribution is in 3 fields. One is business, where I facilitate around 6 billion of investments and trade. Second, policy affairs and government affairs. I'm representing India for last 3 strategic economic dialogue in BRICS and similar platforms. Third, close to my heart is startup and innovation. I'm part of India's National Innovation Mission, and I'm mentoring around 5 startups. One of the startup got President of India award because they are working on air pollution. Thanks a lot.
Yes, thank you very much for attending today's event. Yes, and we will hear more stories from you. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, our last guest, Mr. Lin Shen.
Thank you for your patience. Yeah, thank you.
Well, it's great to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Lin Sheng. I work for Bank of China Mumbai branch. We commenced our business a few months back after a few years endeavor. And personally, my story with India dated back to my university days when I tried so hard to understand your lovely Indian accent. And finally, I grasped the tricks of the pronunciation. And a few years later, I found myself in India with the interesting task of setting up a new branch for the most internationalized bank in China. So it's been 3 years and still counting. What an incredible journey it has been, and thanks for having me.
Okay, except Indian accent, what do you like most about Indians?
I like the way you shake your heads, no matter it's a yes or a no. Chinese people are very friendly.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank
a
you
lot.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Quite an invitation.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hayang, it seems that our guests know both countries really, really well. And earlier video clips show the people of India and China want to learn more each other and want to know like how can both countries learn from each other. Yeah.
Yes, that's so true. And people from both countries have really shown an interest to want to know a little bit more about each other before we can talk about learning from each other. Well, let's start with a little bit of history, a little bit of inventions from our ancestors. Let's take a look at the big screen.
Okay, there are 6 photos: noodles, toothbrush, number 0, shampoo, buttons, umbrella. So, which are the inventions of India?
Yeah.
Let's ask audience first.
Okay. So, who's got an idea which 3 of the items are from China and the others are invented in India? And raise your hand. Those who get picked will get a little gift, okay? Oh, we see a gentleman at the back.
Hello, my name is Dev, and button is invented by India, shampoo is invented by India, and the most incredible thing, 0, is invented by India. Yeah, 3 of them.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Anybody else that has an idea? Raise the show of hands. Was that lady over there showing a hand? Yes, I see you. Can someone
Which are the inventions of India?
Did you say the noodles are
All from India.
Except for the noodles. Yes, we do have that culinary tradition here in China. Oh, anybody that's got an idea? Raise your hand. And actually, maybe they're convinced. Let's see. What is the correct answer?
I saw
So,
number 0, shampoo and buttons are the inventions of India.
and the umbrella, the noodles, and the toothbrush, these are inventions of China.
Yes.
You really got me there with the shampoo, Akhil. I did not know that.
Yeah, actually the English word shampoo came from Hindi word champo or champi. shampoo was invented in India during 18th century. People used the pulp of soap berries combined with herbs and flowers to make their hair shiny and fabulous.
Right, so it was more about appearance than I expected. I thought it was just about keeping everything clean. But thank you very much. Now I
You're
know
most
more
welcome,
about
most
India. Yes, and our discussion will start in a second.
Okay.
Yes. So as we talk about the inventions, that takes up people's wisdom. And you know what else people put wisdom in? The things that we eat every day. So in order to understand better the relationship between China and India, we've actually conducted an online survey to look at the perceptions of people from both countries. And we have found that the first keyword for Indian internet users when they think of China is food. Not surprising in a way, huh? And the second keyword for Chinese internet users, as you can see in the cluster over here, is curry. So,
Right.
it seems like the people from both countries have a special liking for food, and there's nothing wrong with that. But do you agree that curry is synonymous to Indian cuisine? I'll start with one of our Indian friends here, Aditi.
Yeah, I think curry is synonymous with Indian cuisine, with not only Chinese people, but people all over the globe. But as you know, India is a very diverse country. Within India, we have many small Indias. So curry is not only thing that represents India. There are multiple cuisines from the north, from the west, from south. So yeah, but in China, I think most of the people, they know about curry. And one more thing that is into vaping, or the Indian bread.
So I sense that from the different areas in India, actually there's a whole wide variety of Indian cuisine. And Kamel, you had a little signal to me that you want to say
definitely I would
something.
agree with Aditya. Curry is not just a representation of Indian food. Indian food has lots of varieties. If you go to different places, even after every 20 kilometers, you will find the taste of food, the style of cooking is completely different. The way we eat, like every time we have to eat it fresh. We don't use refrigerators too much. And not only curry, you would definitely like some rice items. Like if you go to southern India part, you will like dosa. That's really amazing. So if you will taste it, definitely you will fall in love.
Yes, and yeah.
Definitely, actually, curry is the embolic of Indian cuisine. Without curry, Indian cuisine is incomplete. And I know in China there is a saying, "Min ish wei tian." It means people are deadly serious about their food. Even, in fact, we have a very good and rich Indian culture, food culture in India. So, okay, I will ask our Chinese guest who lived in China. So, what's your impression about Indian food culture?
Mao Keji,
Mao
yes.
Keji.
As a self-claimed Indian food expert, I have some say I have some say over this. So it's amazing because curry is so it's everywhere. So if you go to an Indian restaurant, you want the curry, you will get nothing. Because Indian people will get so confused. What is curry? You know, we have a specific name for them. Right? The same thing happening in China. If you go in India, Indians know that the stir-fry food in China is very popular. But if they go to a Chinese restaurant, if they say, I would like to order 炒菜, then the Chinese people will have no idea what is 炒菜, because we have specific name for different types of 炒菜. So that's something very interesting to observe. Yeah.
Yes, and it's so interesting that because you enjoy Indian food
Yes.
so much that you decided to learn how to cook it, and
Yes.
you do it so often.
Yeah.
Yes, and what about for Tianshu? What do you think about it?
Yes, because I've been living in India for 2.5 years, and I tried a lot of food there. And I found out that, like Maokeji said, curry is not their most famous food. They have a variety of different foods. Like their sweet are really famous in the world. And also because most of the Indians are vegetarians, so they develop a lot of food to make up for their proteins. Like one food is called paneer. It's made of milk and it's full of proteins and it's really delicious. So I recommend everybody, if you go to India, you should try anything with paneer.
Yes. Well, food definitely serves as a key to different culture in so many ways. And in the eyes of Indian internet users, as shown in our survey results, the second keyword when that comes to mind when the word Chinese is mentioned is the adjective safe. So why do you think that is the case? And any of you that has an opinion on it?
Yeah, so I would like to share one experience of mine. Like after having spent a couple of years here in China, in Beijing, I would like to say that China is not only the safest country, it's the safest country in the entire world. And I'll share a small incident that happened with me 6 years back when I first came to China. At that time, I visited a city known as Changsha to participate in the Chinese bridge competition. I brought a photo camera with me at that time, which was very dear to me that time. And on the very last day, I lost the camera in a very busy market area. Then one of my teachers, he took me to the police station, and the police helped me to find the camera. So that thing is really quite incredible. And with the infrastructure and technology that China possesses right now, I think China has a very robust and very secure system right now.
Yeah, definitely I would endorse this. So when you're watching movies, you will see different type of perceptions. They show that there are many guys like riding bikes, they will just rob you, they will hit you, there are so many people on the road. But when you come here, you feel everything is completely different. And I would definitely say that China is one of the safest country. Everything is so nice, so smooth, and it's really nice.
Lichin, it's been 14 years to living in India. So I want to hear from you about India. Like, what is the safety condition in India?
Yes,
What do you say?
Yes, when people talk about safety in India, I think most people misunderstood it. Take an example. I have probably 10 Chinese female staff living and working in India, and I just can't stop them from going to the pub and bars in the weekend night. So they come back pretty late, till 2 a.m. So I think that tells the truth. So it's really safe in India. At least in the metropolitans, it's quite safe.
Yeah, that is so important that we hear these stories from the ground to really get to know what happens in a place and not be dictated by what we hear from certain media outlets. Yes, and well, among the Chinese internet users, there's one other thing that's popular.
It's Bollywood. Many Chinese people mention about Amir Khan. He's a well-known personality in India, from India. So I want to ask, can Bollywood act as a bridge of communication of people with two countries, like India and China?
So Bollywood can act as a bridge of communication for people in two countries. Well, do you agree with this assessment?
Prasun, what do you like to say?
First, I want to add on the first point about the safety. I think safety is more of a public perception, and we nowadays still we depend on third world media to create perception or know each other. I think we should communicate directly, India and China, to know each other, and we shouldn't depend on third world or Western countries like their books or their media to know each other. Second, about Bollywood. Yes, there is a big connection because the thread of society, that is family, is almost similar. Our culture is very similar. And if you can see, the impact is like last year there was 6 movies and they earned around 2 billion USD. So this shows the impact of Bollywood. Why? Because Chinese family or middle class see their pain, their struggle and their success in these movies, which is correlate to their lifestyle. Like Dangal, they see there was how a girl child fought with the social norms and becomes an international player. So I think this relates our key strength, that is culture.
Yes.
Tianshu, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I think Bollywood movies really big, huge influence of all the Chinese to think about India, and but it brings a stereotype for all the Chinese people to think that our Indians they just do singing and dancing at any time, any place. So this reminds me of a similar question that when I was doing some physical exercises, not just in India, in some foreign countries, there were foreigners keep asking me, are all Chinese good at Kung Fu? So I think there's a slightly difference between the two different questions because I think not all the Chinese are really enjoying Kung Fu these days. But I think mostly the Indians love dancing and singing. I won't say they're good at it, but I think it's a good way for them to share their passion, to make friends, to show the world how happy they are about their lives. So I think that's one thing we should make clear about the Bollywood movies.
Yeah, that's so interesting because, yeah, I have to admit, I was one of that people that I sort of just assumed every Indian person would be able just to start singing and dancing, and I really envy that because I can't. But so you're saying no, not everybody necessarily does that in India? Yeah, well, Linsheng, you have something to say.
Yeah. I think like Tianshu rightly said, we should not focus too much on the techniques of singing and dancing because the common Indian people, you and I will meet on our day-to-day life. They are not professional singers or dancers in Bollywood, but I think the root cause for why they love to sing and dance is because deep inside they have the boldness, the willingness to express themselves. That's probably explains largely why compared to Chinese, we may feel that Indians are more capable of singing and dancing. And because I believe if the mood and rhythm is correct, one simple move could be considered to be a dancing move. Yeah. Right.
Very interesting, and thank you for clearing that up for me. And we've also asked another question in our online survey about who are the famous people, the well-known public figures that people from India and China know about each other's countries. And the findings are right here in front of us. So for Indian internet respondents, President Xi Jinping's name came first, and it's Gandhi's name that came up first for those Chinese people thinking about Indian famous public figures. And in a way, I'm not surprised because it's political figures that people know of. But there's one thing that kind of surprised us.
Yes, but what might be surprising is Indian respondent mentioned about Jack Ma is a household name.
Yeah, so Jack Ma, Ma Yun, is a well-known person in India. Do people Taobao in India too?
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that Jack Ma, more than his economic or business endeavors, he's more popular in India because of his speeches, inspirational speeches. I remember seeing one of his speeches where he mentions about his struggle days, where he was learning English and he applied for a job in KFC when KFC came in China, and he was rejected. So a lot of Indian youth who are doing startups and who are doing innovations, so they can learn from Jack Ma, and that's how they know about Jack Ma.
Yes, that's very interesting. So what about Kamal? What do you think explains?
Oh, I think like if you talk about Indians, we Indians like people, those who have a great journey. So when you talk about the journey of Jack Ma, it's really inspiring, it's really amazing. So that's why he's famous. And always you will see like when there is a list in Forbes or who is the richest person in Asia or something. So every time you will find him on the internet. So of course, people know him now.
Very interesting. And we see on the screen as well, Google CEO Sundar Pichai's name is up there too, that Chinese people know of him. And in our survey, we also found that there's one question that came up quite often. So Why is it that Indian CEOs seem to rise through the rungs to the top to the top management of so many Fortune 500 global companies? So, what do you think explains that phenomenon?
I actually did some research on that question very specifically. We know that both India and China suffer quite a lot from the issue of brain drain, which means the talented people chose to go abroad, study and work there. So actually there are two sides of the story. One side of the story is that all those Indian and Chinese people get quite successful in the Western world, but the other side is both countries suffer from the brain drain. It seems like because of the economic growth in China, so a lot of Chinese people in Western country, they chose to go back. But on the other hand, because of the Indian people, they have options. So they tend to make the option of working in the Western country. So if they stay, the best people stay there, so they have more job opportunities to get promoted there. So I think that explains a big part of it. But I think my Indian colleagues, they have their own answer to that. I fully agree with them. Yeah, just a big
So what is your
addition
take
to
on
it.
this?
Yeah.
I think this is because of the Indian talent. Most of our undergrads or young people, they were trained Indian engineer plus with the business degree. That makes them successful, plus with the communication skills that is needed in technology and financial sector. And it's not brain drain, I'll say it's a soul gain. Wherever any Indian in the globe is there, whatever is the color of the passport, but whenever India needs him, he is there for India. The example you can see this month in Texas, when PM Modi came, there were n number of Indians supporting him. Anywhere, wherever he goes, Indians support them despite of their passport color.
Yes, and also I would assume that when you speak English, almost to, as your mother tongue level and being able to assimilate in a diverse culture, that would all help if you're working in a global working environment. Yes, Li Jian and Kamal.
Yeah, I think the communication is not only about speaking English. I think in America, overseas Indians are much better at the communication in a team than Chinese. So usually when Indians initiate a project, they would plan more, talk to all the team members to make sure that their requirements are heard and taken care. So it may slow down the process, but it ensures it goes to the right direction. While most of the Chinese will just quickly start a project and later on realize, well, it's on the wrong direction. So I think that's the difference. That's one of the difference.
Yeah.
And Kamal, what do you say?
One of my 3 points he just already answered. Like connectivity in Indian diaspora around the world, it's really amazing through embassies and through different social medias. Second point, I would like to say that not only the CEOs, but if you go through the survey around the world, you will find that most of the famous doctors, they are from India. Even most of the famous scientists, they are from India. And there's no comparison if you talk about IT services for Indian people. Third thing, I would like to correlate it with parenting. When you talk about Indian parents, when the child is just 3 years old or 4 years old, they would say, oh, you are going to become IAS, or you are going to become engineer. So they just inject that ambition in that child from the beginning. And you can have answers. When you go to United States, you will find all Spell Bee competition winners, they all are Indian students most of the time. Our English language is our second language, correct? But still they are better than native English speakers when you talk about English speaking competitions. So Indian parents, they sit with their children at home in evening, 2 hours, 3 hours, and they teach them how to do it. So that parenting connection enters that thing into their blood, and finally that they get some competition, and through the education system, combination of different subjects and everything, definitely they have those skills and they reach up to that point and they are successful now.
So am I hearing the story of the classic tiger moms and wolf dads, or just pushy parents and period? And that sounds very familiar. You can find them everywhere outside of the studio, or maybe even amongst these nice people who are sitting with us. And I suppose a lot of parents are, it's a struggle sometimes, you know, how to, are you planting your ambition into your kid, and is it going to pay off? Is it going to pan out? Well, very interesting as we hear your answers. And for me, there is a connection with India. That is the poet Tagore.
Yes.
Yes, I still am in possession of a small pamphlet of his published 20 years ago. And he actually visited China 3 times during his lifetime. And he constructed a China Studies Center back in India in 1937. So there is that close connection.
Definitely, and in China there is a saying, reading of 10,000 books is not as useful as traveling 10,000 of miles. So I would like to invite more and more Chinese friends to India for experience a real picture of Indian society and culture.
Yes, absolutely. And these 8 representatives of youth from China and India, they're not just talking the talk, they walk the walk.
Yes.
And when you first settled down or just started life in our respective countries, what was the thing that was unexpected for you that opened your eyes at the time? Lin Sheng.
Yeah, I think I will share two key points. I think first is how friendly Indian people are. I think from this street vendors to Uber drivers or to those very ordinary people that I met on my everyday life. They are being very helpful, very supportive, and express a lot about how much they appreciate Chinese culture. They cited a lot about Hindi Chini Bye Bye. And so this is the first point. And the second is quite an interesting observation. Remember, 5 minutes in India is not specific. It's a range. It ranges from 3 minutes to never or forever. So I had the experience of a Uber driver telling me, I'll be arriving in 5 minutes, and after half an hour he came. And another dinner appointment, the guest told me, I'll be arriving in another 5 minutes, and 1 hour and a half later. So yeah, I think in every communication between two cultures, to understand the hidden message beneath the language is absolutely critical. So remember to understand 5 minutes in India.
Okay, Kamal, yeah. Okay, Kamal, what was your impression before coming to China, and when you landed China? So, what things has been changed? Like you have imagined before, but then what has been changed?
Oh, this country surprises me every day, actually. So before coming like here, I had another chance to come here like 4 years before. Then I had choice to go to Dubai. So I was very happy that, I'm going to Dubai, not going to China. Because I used to think, there are all triangle-shaped buildings, old streets, old people are walking on roads because it is the largest population country. So I said no. Then after that, I had meetings with Chinese people in Maldives when I was there. So they said, why don't you go there? You can contribute in some education development work. I said, okay, let me try. Because I thought, okay, at least that should be better than that place. So when I was sleeping in flight, and suddenly I woke up through for the landing, I opened my eyes and saw through the window, I was landing in Hangzhou. And when I see, did I sit in a different flight? I was going to China, it looks like New York City. So then I said, no, this is correct. I said, wow, this is amazing. I couldn't close my eyes that time. It was really, really amazing. But now when you go everywhere, you see China is really, really fascinating. And even about food, when you go to India, especially North India, people like Chinese food a lot. Amazing, they are crazy about it. So I was thinking, I'm going to China, I'm going to eat Chinese food every day. And I went to a Chinese restaurant. I said, okay, please give me chili potato or some Manchurian. They don't know anything about it. So there is not a single dish which we have in India called Chinese.
Yeah.
And again, I'm a vegetarian person, so it's difficult for me to eat outside. And once I called, I'm vegetarian, I need vegetarian food. So they understood. I said, puyarao, no meat. So they brought some rice for me, and there was one fish over it. I said, huh? I said, I don't eat meat. So, no meat, no meat, no meat. I said, no, I don't eat meat. They said, take the fish out, eat this. So that was really funny. But now I'm like habitual of things, and I'm learning Chinese, so it's better for me.
Yeah, we all
Yes.
start from there, from the eye-opening experience that gives you a little shock sometimes. Sarit, what was it for you when you first landed here in China for the first leg of the journey?
Oh, wow. It was initially hard because I didn't realize how much I'll have to face difficulty in terms of language, you know, because you hear that China is not like, they don't have English that much as compared to India. So I was not very happy when I came, but then my stereotypes within the next 1 month, they all just disappeared because you hear things about India and China, this, and then you come and you face people and you talk to them and you live in a city. So you're like, wow, hey, it's nothing like I accepted, you know? For example, I didn't realize how advanced and how efficient China was in terms of infrastructure, in terms of how it's managing its big population. So that really opened my eyes, and I would show my friends photos of China, and they're like, whoa, this is China? It's like, oh, I thought you were in the USA, you know? So they were like, wow, I want to come visit you. So since then, literally, all my friends from UK and India, they come and visit me, and they go back and they tell everyone, she's living a great life, and I can't believe it's so great. But I really impressed how China has kept their language so strong, and they make you want to learn and read that. So this is something I've never experienced before. It's very impressive. So
Very
that's
interesting.
what I have.
Yes.
So, Li Jian, what was your experience living in India?
Of course, when I first come to India 14 years ago, and especially I was sent to Agra, so it's probably a tier 3 cities in India, and I had to face all kinds of difficulties. But it's also fun to cope with all of those problems. But now I would say that India is changing every day. So I may not be shocked by these changes because I live there. But every time my friends who return to India after 1 or 2 years, they will say, "Well, you see a new metro line, a new flyover." So it's definitely changing day by day. And to be honest with you, I've been living a cashless life since 2016 in India. So can we imagine that we're talking about the cashless life in China, but I believe in the same life in India.
So this is one thing that we kind of share right now. Yeah, and actually in China there has been provisions and local regulations stipulating that that cashiers have to take cash. That, you know, there are some of the minorities of people, as it seems, but they still need to use cash, and you know, you can't go completely digital without. You got to think about the welfare of these people too.
And India is also going to be cashless, and now India is trying. Like a lot of people are using mobile payment or PTM, everything. So yes, Indian society is also moving towards cashless.
Yeah, this is something that I guess is a general trend that economies are going towards.
Right.
Yes, and talking about living, working, and the love of India and China, we have a special guest here with us today. Her interest in India pretty much ignites anybody who speaks with her, whoever gets a chance to do that. So let's give a warm welcome to our special guest, Ms. Han Yan, Chairperson of Global Business, Topline Brand Management Corporation, to the stage. Yes, welcome. Ms. Han Yan, Tell us about it.
Yeah, what's your impression about India? Because you have been in India and you have observed very closely Indian society, Indian people. So I would like to ask, what's your impression about India?
For India, you can't use any one sentences or one thing to describe it.
Okay.
So when I look at the video at the beginning, I realize how much I miss India, how much I miss my Indian colleague in India. And also I do know they miss me as well. So if you have to use some word to describe India, I would say incredible. Of course, it's something showed on the screen. And also extremely emotional driven country. You can step into the people's heart without going through the small passes. That's my impression of India.
So you have seen some similarities between Indian people and Chinese people? Or India and China?
This is a really big question because there are so many.
Okay.
So there are a lot of similarities that we will discover, I think, along the way, as we do. And also, we got from some of our internet users who left a message, is that there is this general impression that maybe females don't have equal status in India, and sometimes the situation is not favorable for her. So what do you think is the reality from the ground?
Okay, so I would like to share with a fact what I can see and also personal experience stories, people around me. Start with a fact. There's a report, it's published 2018, talking about a gender gap. And in that report, showing some differences of Indian female and the Chinese female. And there's two domains extremely different. One is economic participation. Another one is political empowerment. So in the first one, Chinese women is much higher advanced than Indian women. But on the second one, actually, it's really surprising. India is much more advanced than China. If I look at back the history, actually it's the truth. For example, the first India chairwoman for the Congress Party was in the 1925, 50 years earlier than England. And also 1933, there was another female chairperson for the Congress Party, and also 2002, 2004, another one, female leader rise on the stage. So I think that's a fact. But if you look at on the reality around me, for example, use the person really close to me, my driver. My driver in India, the common things really touch me on a daily basis was if I go somewhere like tourist attraction, I ask him to go with me together because that wouldn't be the advantage for him to go by himself. Each time he said no. He said, I promised my wife I will take her to go see all of the beautiful places with me together. And he is definitely an underprivileged person, and his wife never go to school, can't read, and also no job, work, just a housewife, and also it was an arranged marriage as well. Also, I went to his house. His wife was so quiet and shy and beautiful too. So, and the people in our office, like everyone in our office except me was Indian. So if you look at them, you can't see any differences of female and male and in the offices. So they all equally fighting for them dreams, working really hard, caring for the family, just like us. That's my personal experience.
Yes. Oh, thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you for the chances for me to be here. I do believe Indian youth and Chinese youth work together extremely important, not only for our two nations, and also for the human being on the earth. That's why we've been doing so many cultural and people engagement activity, and also register cultural NGO at the first year in India too, because besides the business, that's really fantastic you having this talk here.
And thank you, and I hope more and more friends will join cultural exchanges between India and China, like you.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, thank
so
you.
much.
That would be great. And certainly talking about all this connection, it just gets me very excited, all the communication that's happening. But a little bit of a buzzkill, I suppose. There are still some misunderstandings, right? So you being in touch with so many Indian friends and being in the country, what do you think is the biggest one that you want to correct? If you had to choose.
I do believe there are too many. I think we are the closest stranger on the earth for these two countries. That's my understanding. If we're talking about that bias in our mind, there are so many, long lists. If we only pick one, you only allow me to pick one, so let me think. So only one, I would say, I saw some keyword on the screen as well. People, when they're talking about India, everyone talking about, oh, it's a religious, spiritual country. Everyone talking, that is a fact. India has 8 religious participants in the country, and also talking about Hinduism. You have, I do believe, you have more than 3 million gods in the Hinduism. So that is a fact. But beside that, I also do realize how rationally and scientific contribution Indian people made in the history for the human being. For example, if we're talking about Arabic numbers, including the 0 we was mentioning invented by Indian people. And also I do believe in the 5th century, there's a scientist from India who was talking about the earth revolves on its own axis. And also this has been written in the history already. And also, of course, people maybe don't realize the chess, polo, badminton, all invented by Indian people. So this also really important. And also I remember there was one book I read, written by the person who is India, who had a Nobel Prize as an economist. He said the person who inspired him to write said development as a freedom was the female in the history from 8th century BD. Before, said that female said, if wealth can't bring me the entirety, what is that for my life? So this question risks him to think about, you can't only measure the country by the GDP, and also something else more important. So I do believe those facts need to be seriously looked at as well. When our two countries work together, contribute for each other from the mindset, from a spiritual level, many things.
Yes, Ms. Han, our theme of the discussion is what can we learn from each other? So I want to ask, what can Chinese learn from Indians?
I would say 2 things, and that's, I always talking this to everyone. So number 1 is extremely emotionally driven creativity and sensitivity. That's one. If you allow me, I want to share one story. Another one, I would say, second one would be the ability to trust someone else. So I started from second one because it's my personal story as well. So this year at April, I flew from Mumbai to Delhi. Next to my seat, there's a gentleman. We had some talk. Of course, you all know, you will be informed how many family members you have, where they live by Indians all the time, at the first time, always. And when we landed in Delhi, he asked me to stay, to wait. He want to share the mango he brought from Mumbai, because he said it's best season for the mango in Mumbai. Okay. He want to share this with a stranger, how beautiful, how delicious that is. So if you look at people, how closely when they queue in the line and also in the elevator, how close they are, really make me at a surprise at the beginning, but now I'm used to it. I think we need the ability to trust others. That's one. Second one, I go back to the first one. I said the sensitivity and creativity lead by the emotional. I want to share the one story. I had a conversation with an architect. He want prize, which called the Nobel Prize in the architecture. So he is Indian people who won that prize from 2018. He shared me one story. He said there was a Japanese architect want to visit him, but he can't. He was late, almost for half an hour. The reason for that was he was being dropping by Uber driver another side of route. Without the traffic light, he can't cross the road. So he has to find a way to look at others, finally reach the places. And Dulce shared this story for me, said, all of the creativity start from sensitivity of everything around you. You have to look at that first. And also he mentioned to design a better life for the people from the understanding of the empathy from your heart to the people around you first. So this story, I think, taught me a lot. I do believe this more story need to be heard for me to be the better person in India. So I really cherish the opportunity working and living in India.
Yes, and I can just feel it from just standing right next to me. Really, this enthusiasm that just radiates from you when talking about India. And your work is committed to cultural exchanges between the two countries, and that is something meaningful to do as also we're doing our small part here too. Yes, thank you so much, Miss Han Yan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Miss Han. Thank you so much.
Your stories with us. Thank you very much. The theme of our discussion today is what can we learn from each other, China and India. We promote understanding. We only by understanding each other can we even start talking about learning something from each other, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yes, China and India are two big developing countries, and we face many similar problems such as gender inequality, economic imbalanced economic development, environmental protection. If both countries do well or develop together, so it means India and China can do a lot. Like India may have done better in some areas, and China may have also more experience in areas. So we should find the common challenges and then see what can we learn from each other.
Yes, that is a very good point. And we've asked that question to internet users in India and China. What is the most pressing challenge for both countries? And we see a difference in opinion. For Chinese internet users that responded to the survey, they said unbalanced economic development is the common challenge that's shared by both countries. Whereas Indian peers, they found out that population growth is the shared challenge facing both countries. Well, for our guests on the stage, do you agree with this finding? What's your opinion? The common challenge that is shared by China and India. So I'll go with Prasoon.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge will be changing the perception of our people to have a sustainable development for 3 Ps. One, I would say, position. That is, India and China just not participate in global diplomacy. They should lead the global rulemaking now. Like we are working together for climate change, terrorism, and digital cooperation or economy. And the second P is the population. We need to understand the aspirations of youth in both the countries, and we should work together. Just to tell you the impact of India and China, around 47% or almost 50% of e-commerce users by 2022 will be based in these two countries, and around 39 or 40% of e-commerce sale will be from these two countries. So imagine how big impact we have. If we shut e-commerce for 5 minutes, the technology company can vanish. So we should work together for the perception change, be a leader. And the last one is planet. We should work for planet, that is environment, climate change. So I think the biggest challenge is to change perception to become a leader.
Well said. Yes. Mao Keji, did you have something to add?
Yes. My opinion towards this question is, I have two parts. In the first part, yes, both China and India face similar kind of issues and problems. But the second part is, because China and India are on the different development stage, so some problem China has faced became Indian problems right now. For example, I kind of a little bit disagree with the population issue because China suffers quite a lot from aging population, but India has one of the most robust and young population in the world. So if you say that is a common challenge, it needs more supports. But if China like 3 decades ago, population was a big issue. But currently, population growth is an issue for India. So I think common problems, but on different time stage. That's why the two countries can make more meaningful cooperation in that sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and Kamal, what is your take on this?
Oh, I totally agree with all these points, but I would like to add one more important point to it, which both countries are facing, that is brain drain. So most of the talented people, they try to go to foreign university for education, and then they don't want to come back due to lack of jobs, or maybe due to bad facilities of education system or medical facilities. So if we can control somehow, okay, they are going for education, but they come back to their country and contribute back. So that could be a great idea. So these two countries are facing brain drain, and I hope these two governments can solve this problem.
Well, that's an interesting observation. And Li Jian.
And I think these challenges are not only the common challenges we are facing. They are the challenges that all the fast-growing economy and the most populated countries are all facing. So that means in the entire global world, India and China are actually in the same status, and we are all facing pressures and challenges from Western countries, from developed countries. So again, we should join hands and work together.
Yeah. Oh, and Lin Sheng.
Yeah, I just add one very quick point. I want to touch a little bit on that unbalanced economic development, which topped the list. I think it's a similar pressing issue for both China and India, because if I may use a metaphor, if we compare the two countries as a bullet train, as we are two fastest growing emerging economies, then Mumbai, Delhi, Beijing, Shanghai, the so-called tier 1 cities in each and every country, is already at the very first carriage, and they're growing very fast. But if you look at the last carriage, there are still those backward states and cities, which has a long way to catch up. And I think the difficulty of this issue lies in the word unbalance itself, because it has so many meanings. It could be regional, it could be gender-wise, it could be across sectors. So I think both countries has addressed this issue already, but I think it will still be critical in our next phase of development.
All right, our next topic is surpass. China is now second largest economy in the world, but China's economy or its GDP is slowing down in recent years, and last year India GDP exceeded to the China. So and second thing, the international community has had a debate like is India is surpassing China. So what do you think? Yeah, Mao Keji.
Because I'm from NDRC, one of our job is to do the statistics. So I actually did that a little bit as a part of the strategic and economic dialogue between China and India. I did that personally, so I have some insights into it. So, statistically speaking, it is a little bit hard for India to catch up China in at least 10 or 15 years period of time. Why? Because if we look at 2017 statistics, the size of Chinese economy is almost 4 times as large as that of India. But if they are of the similar size, but still the growth rate are kind of similar, that means the absolute gap between 2 countries is still widening. So, like China and the US, if China wants to catch up to the US, the growth rate has to be as large as the times difference between them. So China, in order to catch up to China, India has to grow at something like 15 or 16% per year. That is a little bit hard. There's a big but Modi ji has put out a program named making India a $5 trillion US dollar economy in 5 years. I think that's something ambitious and achievable. With that kind of objective out there, I think there should be a lot of meaningful cooperation projects between 2 countries, and China definitely can help India to, get that object done. So that's my opinion. Yeah.
Yes, Prasoon.
I think why always China versus India? Why shouldn't be China with India? I strongly suggest, and thanks to China Plus, 2 of my articles says, we should create Asian Union. We should work together. As 50% of global population will be with us, we should create our own Asian Silicon Valley, which also I write for China Plus and Indian media, which was endorsed by both the governments, by connecting Bangalore and Shenzhen. So we should think of China with India rather than somebody's question is, I think this question is wrong for us. China versus India is not suitable. We should have competition, but we shouldn't have contradictions.
Also well said. Also to contribute to this discussion, we have special guest, Mr. Xu Qinduo, political analyst, senior fellow at Pangoal Institution, to share his thoughts. Yes, come on the stage, Mr. Xu Qinduo.
Welcome to the stage.
So, Qinduo, will India surpass China is the topic of discussion. Do you agree with this way of asking the question?
It could be a matter of time. I see the potential in India. You see the resources, human resources. You see how smart the people are, how well educated they are. And I've been to India once, and I spent some time in the industrial park. I see how well it was managed. And you see the bright future just lying ahead. It's really about to unleash the potential. And then I think that's the future of India.
Very interesting. Well, what about what Prasoon shared with us just now? He doesn't agree with this framework of competition and comparing, and he thinks we've been put in a sandbox.
Healthy competition definitely is good, right? I kind of agree with my friends here. It's really about, I think, China and India. If you look at the history of the past 2,000 years, for 1,700 years, China and India were the 2 largest economies in the world. I think China and India are simply restoring their historical status. And China and India, more or less the same maybe in the future in terms of the size of the economy, but it doesn't really matter. And I think as long as both countries and both peoples can fully tap their potential and develop themselves and their economy, I would say yes. In the future, China, India, I think their position in the next 20, 30 years would be the second largest economy. That's very real, actually.
Okay, what do you think, India and China, they are competitor or they are partner?
Well, let me tell you a story. I have a friend, the Chinese diplomat. He told me, in the international arena, like UN, if there's a climate change or some other kind of a meeting, if you made a mistake and you pick up the draft of the speech of Indian delegation and you read it, it's the same as in Chinese. The content is the same almost. The message is the same. We remember China and India together with Myanmar, we put forward this peaceful coexistence, the 5 principles. Right. The principles, if you look at it, is simple, few principles, but it comes from our culture. I would see the similarities in our culture. Both cultures cherish very much about peace, stability, coexistence. And the wisdom from China, from India are also very similar. We cherish our family, we stress very much about education of our kids. And so you see, that's why the Indian movies are so popular in China. For example, the Dango, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
It's about education. It's about the difficulties. It's about encouraging your kids to overcome the difficulties and to surpass themselves. And then you become successful. So I think China shares the same with the Indian people. So that's why it's so popular. And Bollywood movies already won the hearts and minds of the Chinese people. Very popular here. Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Thank you so much.
Xu
Thank
Xingduo,
you.
My pleasure.
for sharing with us what your insights are.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. Yes.
And actually, I agree with your point. And suppose if we combine the population of India and China, it becomes 1/3 population of world. And both, like if India and China, they work together or develop well, so it means that 1/3 global population can benefit from it. So we don't pay attention like who will pass, who will surpass, to whom. I think both countries should develop well, and then they want to explore more cooperation.
That is a really good point. And in order to, I suppose, go further, well, why don't we identify the strengths of China and India? That is one question we've asked our internet survey respondents. And for once, Indian and Chinese internet users came up with the same conclusion. That is, China's biggest advantage is scientific and technological innovation. So, and India's biggest advantage is human resources. What do you think about this finding? Do you agree? Aditya.
Yeah, I think I agree with this opinion that human resources is one of our strengths, and as pointed out earlier, that India is one of the most populous countries in the entire world. And if you see that population, a huge chunk of population is youth. Almost 30 to 40% of our people are under 30 years of age. So I think that is one of the biggest advantages that India has when other countries are having the problem of aging. The other advantage, I think, which has been not mentioned here, which I think is the spiritual thing that we have in India, the spiritual reliance that we have in India. Because of multiple religions and multiple faiths, we have something to rely upon. So I think that is one very big advantage that our country has.
Very interesting. Yes.
Yes.
I just want to add that I feel human resources is nothing without education, right? Because it's management of human resources. And science and technology comes with giving a good education. So I think the fact that both China and India are so invested in their education, as opposed to what Western media portrays, like, or we look into ourselves and we keep pointing holes, or maybe our education is not good, maybe we need to be like this, like that. Yes, there is a scope for improvement. But that shows that, yes, we have a good system for education, and our people are really hardworking, and they're willing to advance in those fields. And that's why we both have that. So I think our education systems are pretty strong.
Yeah.
And Liqian, what do you think?
I think definitely these other things, especially the scientific part, is quite behaving well, and it not only benefit the China market, but as long as more Chinese companies are coming to India, they are bringing the same technologies to India. And now very quickly, whatever we are getting in China after 2016, we are benefiting from the same nowadays in India. So the same technologies are all available in India. So.
Yes, and science and technology has been developing fast in India too. We see
definitely. And China's technical and technological and scientific innovations, it's really, really impressive. Like mobile payment, straight bicycle, high-speed train, artificial intelligence, all are changing the people's life. Even India is also doing well, and India is a IT super hub. So do you think there will be a cooperation in this area in future, Prasun?
Yes, as I mentioned previously, that around 50% of e-commerce users will be based in India and China by 2022, and 40% of e-commerce sale of business will be from these two countries. So I definitely see cooperation in digital economy. I definitely see cooperation that we should start data governance and we should initiate a World Data Bank, because this year the value of data has crossed the value of global oil. So this will be a big resource for us, and we are working together on same stage in WTO while we're discussing about digital e-commerce framework. So I see a cooperation in digital economy and on the global diplomacy level as well, like leading UN or WTO or creating our own Asian Union.
Very interesting. What are some of the areas of future cooperation do you think the two countries can engage in? Lin Sheng.
Yeah, I think since I'm from the finance background, and finance industry is a key industry in any country, I would, if I may elaborate a little bit on that, I would break my answer into three parts. I think first, it's very important to keep the positive momentum on the strategic fronts, as is mentioned by our ambassador, Mr. Sun, in the opening video. I think the strategic economic dialogue, the financial dialogue, these mechanisms could provide really critical strategic guidance on the synergies between two countries. And the second point, I think, is we could strengthen our collaboration under the multilateral frameworks. Apart from G20 and BRICS, which is fairly well known, I think less people notice that India is actually by far the top beneficiary of AIIB funds. And AIIB is Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, Yatohang, which was proposed by China a few years back. There are 12 projects approved already, up to date. So I think it sets a really great example for our two countries. And the third point, I think, is we should enhance the frequency and also the depth of our communication on some concrete matters. For example, recently we helped the Reserve Bank of India, which is the central bank, to conduct a start visit in China to learn the agricultural credit, the flow, the policy, the regulations. I think we expect more of such interactions to come in the future. Yeah.
And Aditya, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I believe that tourism is one industry where India and China can collaborate in the future. We both know both civilizations are 5,000 years old civilizations. But if we see the present tourism industry, very less number of Chinese people visit India. And similarly, there are like very less number of Indian people visiting China. So tourism is one industry which the both countries can focus on. And along with that, people-to-people exchange in terms of students, in terms of diplomats. So because as we see, around 20,000 students, Indian students are studying in China right now. Most of them are pursuing medical studies. And there are very less number of Chinese students studying in India. So I think in these two areas, in these two sectors, if we can have a better collaboration between the two countries, this will foster their relationships in the future. Thank you.
And also, Kamal, you had something to say.
Yeah, definitely. He has said almost my whole points. But yeah, definitely when you talk about development of these two countries, the most important thing comes related to culture. So if we have cultural exchange programs and investment in medical sectors, hospitality, that would be great. And here I would like to ensure that these two countries are in safe hands. We have one of the, these two leaders are the strongest leaders of the world, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Xi Jinping. Definitely they will do something really great for us. So we don't need to be worry about it.
Thank you, Kamal. And Li Jian, what do you see as possibly an area for future collaboration between China and India? Would it be something that could benefit the people's lives?
Definitely. I think so earlier when we are not so confident about Indian-China relationships, we know that it's not so stable. So why? So I always have a theory that the real reason is because we lack of mutual investment in each other. market. So whenever a political issue happened, the business world suffered. So, but in the last couple of years, the direct investment from China, not only the mainland, but also from Hong Kong, from all the Cayman Islands. So all this investment to India, I would say it easily goes up to $10 billion. So I think with this huge money of investment in India, now we will be a very safe place, and I think Chinese companies would be feeling much better in investing in India.
Yeah.
And all this technology, all this know-how will be transferred to India. And also, I always believe that our solution suits India more. For example, the power grid, right? So maybe American has a good solution, but they're big land with less population. So I mean, our solution better. And speaking of the high-speed train, bullet train, Japanese solution good, but it's a small land, right? So our solution, our railway network suits Indian market better. So I think it's a time for India to welcome, to having more Chinese solutions. This is the time.
Yeah, and those few so-called Chinese products, I think they've really stood the test of the market.
Yes.
And they'll vouch for themselves in that way. Yes, thank you very much for your share. And Sirat, what do you think would be an area or areas that the two countries can work together in the future?
I think medical, because I feel they're already cooperating in terms of India sending their students and China, helping India with doctors and everything. But I feel somehow, I don't know why, but there's a lack of respect for medical profession that's not that much there as there is in India. So I feel there's a lack of trust among Chinese patients for their doctors. That was a bit shocking to see because I've seen my own Laoshi work very hard and I've seen doctors perform really good. But somehow that misunderstanding can be removed, and India and China both have huge population. So they need doctors, right? And that's why we have so many medical schools, and so does China, and they're still helping Indian students become one. So if they can bridge that gap, that'd be amazing.
Yes, definitely in the medical field, and also with technology advancement, I think there's a lot of work that can be done.
They're both good at that. So.
Yeah, definitely. And Tianshu,
yes.
Do you see?
Well, I think e-commerce should be the most important part that we can work together, because we all know that India is a huge country and with huge market and a lot of potentials to be discovered. Like when I was in India to work and live, there do existing some inconvenience in my life, like when you try to take a cab or take out food, it's not convenient like in China. So I think China should develop more chances to in this area.
And what would you say about media cooperation between two countries? Because you were a correspondent in India.
Yes.
So I want to ask about media cooperation. Like
Yes.
both countries can cooperation in media sector. So what do you say?
Yes, I think compared to other countries, the current cooperation between media of China to India is not as much as we need. So I think in the future we should develop more chances to cooperate with them, with their media organizations, to hold more something like talks like this, or some exchange programs to learn the way how they do their media and how we do ours, so we can share more information and let them to know about our way of thinking, so they can share more real details for their audience to let them to know the real current reality in China. So that was also the problem that he mentioned before, that before he came to China, he didn't know much about the things going on here. So I think media exchange and media cooperation could really make up for that.
Definitely, that would be closing one gap, and comparing notes can be useful in a lot of these areas. Yes, and talking about the future relationship between the two countries, we asked internet users to rate what they think would the future be. 0 being very pessimistic and 100 being very optimistic about the India-China relationship in the next 20 years. Well, 50 would be staying at status quo, and the average score given by Chinese internet users is 66.9, whereas Indian counterparts gave a 68.1, and that's not too far up from each other. What's your interpretation of the findings, and what would your score be? Sirat?
I think it'll be higher.
You think it should be higher?
You know why? Because I'm living here, so I see the similarities.
Yeah.
So anyone who's living on that side of the border, for both India and China, they see what the media shows. And media shows like some nice stuff, some not nice stuff, and they think, okay, we are so different. Like, why this, why that? But living here, you see the similarities, and you, like, we are sitting right now and making progress with each other's relationship. This is going to continue. It's going to be good.
And Aditya, what do you say?
Yeah, I think that this data clearly shows that major population of these two nations, that is India and China, that is the youth population, they are very clear in their vision about keeping the past aside and thinking about the future. So they were not thinking about whatever happened between India and China, whatever tensions we had in our relationship in the past, but they were very optimistic about the future. So I think this data is quite an interesting data, that similarity that we have.
Yeah. And Prasoon?
I think the next 3 to 4 years can be historic and beyond this scale, because we have two strongest leaders which have courage and mandate to take bold decisions. So President Xi and PM Modi, they are leading a very strong, stable government in an unstable world. So there can be some historic decisions which can be beyond these scales.
Yes, and Li Jian.
Yeah, I would give a much higher score to this. I'm pretty confident about that. As I said, the engagement between India and China are now getting enhanced a lot from the investment. So I believe with all this investment, Chinese companies now, they not only bring the money, technology, but in Indian this land, they are having more employment, they are having more taxations. So all these influence will benefit both the countries in the long run.
Yeah, it sounds to be definitely, when we're connected in some way, because we are, it would either be through technology, or be through business, or through face-to-face communication, and there are so many ways that we're connected, and once I think that link is established, well, that's when the emotions started to flow, and
Hayang, how many points would you give?
so now you're asking me, what would my answer be? I am, okay, you could call me wearing the rosy specs, but I'd give it a 200. I just said that. I'm very optimistic after hearing what you guys have to say. And Lin Shou, you had something to add.
Yeah. I think if there is a teacher coming and China and India are two students, 60.9, 68.1 is certainly not a great score. So since I think education in both countries are pretty tough. So I think, but that's the reason why we are here. If this is the score, and when we look back, we will be getting, I think there's no reason for us to sit together. I think there's much potential considering the size of our two economies. We should set a higher goal for ourselves to achieve.
Yes.
All right, now it's Q&A session. Let's give some time to answer some questions we have gathered through the online survey. An Indian netizen says, I have seen many youths in China are under great pressure of getting a better job. Why? We have to change their attitude of money is not a life. It's a commodity. Money sometimes doesn't bring happiness. Ask my Chinese youth to come to India and see the real happiness and joy.
Well, this is painting India as a utopian place. And I mean, yes, why is it that the Chinese people are so focused on getting the better job, getting the better pay? And
in India also, like in big city like Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, we have this kind of pressure. like searching better job opportunities. So we have also facing this problem.
Would that be something that's constantly on your mind? And
Yeah.
it's a thing, well, you call it pressure.
Okay,
or
let's
drives
we
people.
ask,
Yeah,
we
what
ask
do you
our
guys think?
I think
About-
who doesn't? Who doesn't? Like,
Yeah.
really? Ask any person in this world, are they happy where they are?
Well, I suppose
It's
it-
very lucky if you are,
Uh-huh.
but everyone wants to be better, right? Everyone wants to have a better job or something they think they deserve.
Mhm.
So I think
I think
it's
that
not that
netizen
much.
is thinking that in China there's a lot of pressure about getting better job.
I personally.
So what do you say? Like this kind of pressure is okay, or we should
No, the
remove
pressure
this?
is not fair anywhere. The pressure is not fair anywhere, but it's not to say just China has it. I've seen in groups of foreigners, I've seen in groups of Indians, I've seen in groups of Chinese. It's human. It's there, it's human.
Okay, yeah, Maokaji.
Yes, I think, it is a misconception and a misunderstanding, I have to say, because, there are more and more Chinese tourists visiting India. Whenever they get back, they took picture of the street. Sometimes they saw people laid back on the, around the street, and they told their Chinese friends that, okay, Indian people are quite laid back, but look at the people around us, no one is doing this. But this is wrong. Indian people are the most hardworking people in the world. If you know the IAS exam, it's one of the hardest exams in the world, but people still doing so hard for it. Just people don't understand the whole picture, so they take a part out from it and say it's the whole story. In China, they are laid-back people as well. But if you focus on those hardworking people, you will think it's hardworking all the time like that, but it's not true. I totally agree with you. It's all human being, after all. So I don't think it's a good way to just approach China and India in that way. Both countries are very hardworking country. Only difference can be the outside external conditions. Some people, they really want to be hardworking, but they actually lack that kind of infrastructure and lack of that kind of physical condition to be hardworking. So if we provide with those kind of conditions, they will be super, super hardworking. They will be the best people in the world. That's what I believe.
Yeah, and that's also kind of assuming that hardworking is the better personal trait, or sort of the assumption there. And in China, in the last few months, there was this discussion about folks who work in IT or some of the other businesses too that had to work from Monday to Saturday and 9 to 9 or something like that. And although it received a lot of backlash too, but it shows that there are in some industries rather common that people really live at work here in China, and that's the kind of work spirit that Chinese people have demonstrated. But I mean, is that something? What would our Indian friends think about a lifestyle like that? Or would you call it a lifestyle?
Lifestyle
of work.
I would say our biggest strength of both the countries is culture.
Yeah.
We are not capitalist. Now we are trying to be capitalist. That's why we feel pressure. We never run, I mean, if you see our history, we did a lot of inventions, as Ms. Henyan mentioned, but we never marketed it because we were not doing this to earn money. So now the youth and the present era counts your success based on financial terms. That's why the youth are working hard. That's good also, that we should be at par with the time. But once we don't belong or we are not enjoying the work, then we feel the pressure. Once we start enjoying that, or it's a part of our culture or our interests, we enjoy that work. So yes, because of big populations, there is a lack of options of career choice. Whatever we get first, we'll join that. And the pressure comes because we don't enjoy the work. But once we reach a stage, which is China is very near to that, they have a basic safety of financial basis, then they will start choosing. Like my friend, he was working good in one of the reputed company, but he founded Graphite because he liked that work. So he will not feel pressure whether he's working for 18 hours or 20 hours.
Very interesting. And we have another question actually for you guys, presented by an internet user. Is there innovation in education in India? Is MOOC or something like the paying for knowledge kind of product also popular in India? So I'll offer you a little bit of explanation here. So in China, a lot of people are interested in paying for these classes that are audio classes on their smartphones. Often it's quite short, but comes in multiple episodes. You can listen to it whenever you want. It teaches you how to invest in the stock market, as it claims, or how to be better in your relationship or anything. So that's called the paid for knowledge product. So do you see something like that in India when it comes to just innovation in, if you can call it education, or the sense that I am getting education? Yeah, Aditya.
Yes, I think these e-portals or applications, apps, mobile apps are also getting popular, especially in the metropolitan cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata. And I can see a lot of apps coming up these days where small kids can learn and they can read their lessons on the mobile itself. I think this is because of the technological change that we had in the past few years, especially like a couple of years back, there was a big company that had cheaper plans, internet plans, and everyone has access to mobile phones. And I think we should also thank China for providing us such cheaper smartphones so that everyone, every youth in India can access these kind of websites and apps.
Very interesting. And
another question is there a brain drain in India? When the most talented people go to US, for example, if yes, how does this affect India's future? Prasun, yes.
So as I said previously, I'll say it's a soul gain now, because wherever Indians are residing globally, they are there for India whenever India needs it. Despite of their passport colors, they are contributing to India's growth. You can see our Prime Minister's visit in any country, they'll support. Even in our FDI, the non-resident Indians are contributing a lot in innovation, in education, and other aspects, soft aspects like climate change or like education, girl-child education. So they are contributing a lot. So I'll say it's more like a soul gain. There is a saying, I think it's a similar for Chinese. You can, what we say, you can take Indian out of India, but you can't take India out of Indian. Wherever Indian lives, the small India is in his heart. So I think it's more like a soul gain.
Okay, Kamal, yes.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with this point. We had done some research work about it also, and there is a big brain drain happening. So people, they try to enter to different countries because of education first, because it will be easy for them to get visas. And what I would say, the main reason for it is what a happy person needs in the everyday life. One, safety. Second, easy medical access, and a good education for a family. So if we can provide these few, it looks, okay, very small thing, but if you can provide these things in your own place, hometown or home country, nobody would like to leave their country, because everybody in this whole world, they're very integrated person, right? They love their country. So, but again, if there is a brain drain, then what would happen? There will be a lack of talented people in the country. Then again, we have to give the command of the policymakers, like team, will be in old hands. So that would be really a big problem for any country.
All right, all right. May we have Consular in Indian Embassy, Mr. Prasanna Srivastava, on stage to give some remarks. So how do you see today our event?
Good afternoon, everyone, and let me first thank China Plus and China Media Group for inviting me and the embassy to witness this very lively discussion. And I would say that the organizers, hosts, and the participants must be applauded for the kind of creative, lively, yet very substantive discussion that you have put together here. So my congratulations again for putting together this beautiful and wonderful program. Generally speaking, I would say that the theme of the event, basically to connect the youth of the two countries, is very, very important and timely. We really feel that the people-to-people connect and particularly the free and frank exchanges between our youth, such as the one that we just witnessed here, is very, very important to not only find more areas of convergence, to enhance mutual understanding, but to, in general, take the relationship forward. So in that regard, I think it's very, very important. In fact, you would have noticed that our two governments are also focused in this. And we have been actually running since 2006 youth exchanges programs, and more than 3,500 young people from both countries have benefited with that program and visited each other's countries to understand each other's countries in a better way. And talking about youth again, there are so many Indian students pursuing studies in China. There are, I think, more than 20,000 Indian students who are currently present in China. There are so many Chinese students also pursuing different kinds of education in India. But we, of course, need to work on those numbers more. We have several initiatives. Government has come up with a Study in India initiative. I'm sure our Chinese friends and students will benefit from that also. Yeah, please.
And what is the message that you would send out to the Indian and Chinese youth today?
Yeah, I would say that while we are two close neighbors, we have lived with each other for millennia. We are the two most populous countries living side by side, but still the kind of knowledge about each other, the kind of understanding about each other that should be there is actually not there. Our interaction is still fairly limited. So I think that's one area that we need to really work on. If you see, our combined population is more than 2.5 billion, but the number of visits that we have every year is 1 million. So there is enough scope for all of us to work in that direction. And our leaders are actually focused in that. When they met last year, they decided to constitute a high-level mechanism focused solely on people-to-people connects. And I'm sure with the directions of the leaders and this kind of vibrant discussions and exchanges that we have between our youth, I'm sure the sky is the limit.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your great remarks.
Yes, thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much, sir.
Yes. And may the 8 youth representatives from China and India take a small break from the discussion off the stage, as we have been talking about the dance forms, the beautiful singing from India, and we have organized a performance of a traditional Indian dance form. Yes. For today's event. Yeah. And let's welcome our performer, a special guest, Wu Jingxi. Hello. Namaste.
Wow, lovely, lovely, lovely dress.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the dance form that you do, as well as how many years have you been devoted to this art form?
The dance form I do is Bharatanatyam. It's an ancient Indian art form. Begins about 5,000 years ago. And it's mostly about ancient Indian stories. And I have been doing this for about 15 years. I'm 20 now.
Oh, so most of your life you have been practicing this dance form. And without further ado, let's appreciate Wu Jingxi's performance.
Hope you guys enjoy it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದೃತಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದೃತಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ದೃದೃತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದೃತಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ದೃದೃತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ದೃದೃತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ದೃದೃತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ದೃದೃತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃತಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ದೃದೃತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ದೃದೃತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ದೃದೃತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ದೃದೃತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃತಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ದೃದೃತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃತಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ದೃದೃತನುಂ 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 ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ರಾಮನಾಥಪುರ ಪಾಲಗುಡೌ ಮುದ್ದು ರಾಮಲಿಂಗ ರಾಜೇಂದ್ರ ವಿಭುನಿ ಅಭಿರಾಮಿರಯಮುಗ ರಕ್ಷಿವು ಭೂಮಿ ಬಾರಾಯಿ ರಾಜರಾಜೇಶ್ವರಿ ಶಂಕರಿತ ತಕಿಟ ನಿರಿಸ ನಿರ ಕದಿಮಿ ರಕಜಂ ಗಮದಗ ತಕಿಟ ಜಂ ಪರಿದಾಂ ತಕಿಟ ನಿರಿಸ ನಿರ ಕದಿಮಿ ರಕಜಂ ಗಮದಗ ತಕಿಟ ಜಂ ತರಿದ ಜಮು ಜಂ ಮಗರಿ ತಕಿಟ ಜಂ ತರಿದ ಕದಣರಿ ಸಮಗರಿ ಸನಿದರ ದಿಂಗಿನ ಕುಂತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ದೃದೃತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ದೃದೃತನುಂ ತನತ ದಿರನ ಆದೃದಾನಿ ತುಂತ ದಿರನ ತಾನಿ ತುಂತ.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wu
It's a
Jinxi.
fabulous
That was beautiful.
performance.
Thank you so much for the dance that you have provided with us. And now may we have the 8 guests, youth representatives from
Please come
China
on the
and
stage.
India back onto the stage.
See her.
Yes. So we've got everybody back on the stage, and this year marks the 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. And next year, 2020, would mark the 70th anniversary of the diplomatic relations being established between the two countries. So I would like to ask our 8 representatives of the youth of both countries to give a one-sentence outlook about the future relationship between China and India. Let's start with Lin Sheng.
Yeah, thank you. I will borrow a Chinese old saying, 远亲不如近邻. A close neighbor is better than a distant relative. So let's work together for a brighter future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aditya.
Aditya, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I'll also summarize my wishes for both the nations in 2 Chinese idioms. The first one of them is 求同存异. The both nations should keep aside the differences and seek common grounds. The second one is 天下大同, that is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Every one of us is one big family. Thank you.
Thank you, Aditya. Yang Tianshu.
I would like to use one sentence to describe our future bilateral relationship. That is 龙象共舞, dragon and elephant dancing together, because we're both giant countries developing rapidly. So in the future, if we work together with our friendship, we can develop really good in the future.
Thank you.
So on behalf of all India, I would like to convey my sincere greetings and wishes to the China and India for their 70th anniversary of bilateral relationships. And at the end, I would say one Hindi saying, which is from our Vedas, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santu Niramaya. That means everybody should be happy, everybody should be prosperous together. Thank you.
Once upon a time, when India and China were in the honeymoon, we say Hindi Jini Pai Pai. And then when the problem start, we say Hindi Jini Bye Bye. And then 2-3 decades later, when the trade restarted, we say Hindi Jini Bye Bye. We buy stuff, right? And then I think it's the time now for us to restart the Hindi Jini Pai Pai.
I want to say that China and India, let's make bridges. And let's make friends and destroy all stereotypes. So happy anniversary, China.
I would like to borrow some words from the slogan from 2 countries' government. So China and India should work together to carry forward the great rejuvenation of the 2 nations. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would say let's march towards Asian era. Let's create Asian Union and Asian Silicon Valley. Jai Hind.
I want China and India, we understand each other more and appreciate each other more.
Thank you very much. Yes, Akel.
Please. That's a great, I see a promising future. India and China, I believe India and China can work more and more on mutual cooperation. Peoples to people exchanges will be increased between both countries.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you. And the more we know about each other, just like we're doing today, it establishes mutual understanding. It generates interest and curiosity, and we understand each other better and understand each other's decision making a little bit better. That is so beneficial for the future. And may we see more of collaboration and joining hands, working in something great in the future on all fronts.
Definitely, and this is very meaningful event. Thank you for coming and thank you for watching our live broadcast.
And thank you so much for all of you who've made the time to swing by to join our discussion, and also all of you that have been watching our show on the internet. Thank you for that. And this is China India Youth Talks 2019. We shall see you next year.